Psyop Radio.
Welcome to the first podcast of Psyops. This is Odah.
And I'm Kloudnine.
Our first podcast is going to be on psychic vampires and the extreme differences from your fluffy bunny type people to your exotic energy suckers.
Yeah, have you ever known a person that, sort of when they walk into a room or you talk to them, you just feel drained? Like they intentionally go out of their way, maybe not even with knowing it, to extract energy from you. You just feel drained, tired, sleepy, and maybe even puts you in a bad mood when you're around them.
Yeah, and it even goes to the extent of emotional attack. It's not even just like the sensation can feel almost alienated even. It goes into so many directions of duality and, even it's like a tribal aspect, you can say.
Yeah, it's sort of like, Coke or Pepsi. You're black, you're Hispanic, you're white, racial, national. All these levels where it's you against them are exploited in this sort of mindset. And these people, for whatever reason, feel the need to feed off other people to get their almost energetic high, their energetic fix for the day. They can't sustain themselves on their own battery, as it were.
Yeah, and even to the point of saying, slowly draining people, pulling them in slowly just to get a better grip on them and exploiting that energy in a lot of different aspects. You can see it in government, you can see it on television, friendships, and all sorts of directions in life. It's quite amazing how thought really relates with emotion. So even certain words or even ideas brought to your attention can even drain you in so many different ways that I don't think we can really realize, Cloud.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, going through high school, if you saw the kid, or whoever, if they weren't fitting in to a certain clique, they were often, picked on or made fun of. There's like this certain status quo you have to remain a part of, and if you're not, you're almost thrown out into society as chum. You know, you just get kind of fed upon by everybody else. There definitely is a sort of societal mold you have to fit in to really make it in the world. It's a dog-eat-dog type society, and it's disturbing, really, when you think about it.
Wouldn't it be nice to have a popularity journal in high school before you got in there?
Yeah, they should do that. They should, before you come to the school, you need to wear, Nikes. You need to have these brand of clothes. You need to look this way, listen to this type of music. Just mandatory.
Yeah. Basically, like, which category would you like to go into? We have the goths, we have the preps, we have the jocks, we got, basically just go on and on. What it really comes down to is the direction we're going in our creativity or our life in general, the thinking mind, and how the thinking mind feels the need to be fed egotistically. Now, we use such a small portion of our brain, and that small portion of our brain has got us to this point. So it really brings up the point, how are we really moving forward if we are just moving in a small direction of thought process or even succubism?
Yeah, it's almost as if the system is set up to keep you distracted from evolution, from turning inwards and really exploring your own being. You have to spend most of your time and energy just trying to survive. It's a survival way of life.
It's not something that you're even aware of. That's the sad part. It's something that we are so innately in tune with that we almost forgot that there are so many different parts of us. I mean, just the sensations you get when a noise hits your ear and it almost sends an extreme vibration through your body. But I think that if we were able to really delve into these different sensations and not so much into thought, we would actually maybe even not need thought process or the whole I think therefore I am bullshit.
Yeah, it's almost that you have thoughts to process foreign bodies. You're going about your day absolutely pure and straightforward, and you kind of get sidetracked. You get muddied down with something else, that makes you process it with your thoughts. Keep going without any thoughts at all. And I think some people do that anyway, and maybe that's how accidents happen, or that's so often depicted to us in popular media or TV or TV shows. You always see the person going about their day not paying attention or not thinking. They get wiped out. Bad things happen to them. But I wonder, how often do you see people that are actually doing that in real life that are just fine and actually do exceedingly well, more so than the people who overthink life?
Yeah, I mean, the brain is a tool. And when we have created this system of egotistical rules and beliefs and emotional, concepts, that's when we are targeted by certain groups of people. And it will drain you. It will literally drain you because we put so much energy into that part of our mind that we totally forget that there are these aspects. In further podcast, Cloud, we'll go into it, but I just want to keep this conversation flowing on, just the general idea of energy draining.
Absolutely. It's almost you're not able to live without some form of give and take relationship with everything and everyone around you. It's really a complicated subject. Maybe not. Maybe it actually is really simple. I think personally that we're locked into it. That it's not natural. I think we've been coaxed into it over time by something or someone. But skipping back a little bit to when we were talking about energy vampires at the first start of this podcast, I'd like to go into the bubbly side to it. You seem to see some people who just absolutely overflow and radiate energy rather than take it. When they're around, everyone feels better, everyone feels great, and they're just absolutely, just light-filled people of happiness, and they have to find ways to actually get rid of their energy rather than suck it in from other people.
Yeah, and it can even bother people at times because a lot of people like to just stay in their own vibration. So when you introduce someone that's trying to even get, a higher vibration or a different type of energy, it can cause a rejection state. And, the high bubbly people, a lot of the time they go up and down. It's not just like, you see those, they just, they wake up and they're singing and dancing. Everyone has their ups and downs. It's kind of interesting how we're able to not believe that we can all reach states of balance or even being comfortable in our own skin, our own attitude about life. We seem to have to give a little and take a little, like Cloud was going into. It's like a spider web. It's literally like this giant web. It really makes you wonder who's in the middle.
Yeah, it's it is interesting. Who is a spider? But it's interesting that you said web. Because we have the World Wide Web that we're currently talking to one another on, and before maybe 100 years ago, you would talk to people in your neighborhood, you would talk to your family, maybe from time to time other people in your state. And rarely other people in your nation, and just a few people would talk globally, which would take a long time to travel just to get from one place to another. But now, I can talk to you many miles away from me, and vice versa, and we can share ideas and concepts and even emotions with one another at the drop of a hat without any travel whatsoever. So this energetic grid of give and take has expanded to some kind of bottleneck phase where we're really evolving it now to have a global effect, a global tie-in, rather than just the small scale it was before.
Just like any web, there's different sections of the web, and some of them are dangerous, some of them are fruitful. And we even entangle ourselves in our own webs, feed on ourselves at times. It's kind of interesting how we can actually identify with ourselves with ideas from the internet. This tribal community system, I mean, I go across the bridge, it's a whole different society in my city, just crossing over the water. And now I can interlude with so many different people around the world, and not only is my society different in so many ways, but it can actually turn into a clusterfuck at times.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a important side effect to note. Now that we are connected on a global scale, You as a person, you're going to go through information, almost on a quantum level, when before it was, very stagnant. That's really, I feel, going to be more trying on the psyche. And I think this also ties into the idea that time is speeding up, or maybe the vibratory rate is going up, thus creating time to go faster. So that has to have a strain on your psyche if you're not keeping balanced, if you can't take in the information and cool down and really ground into your being. You're just gonna have problems. You really are. And I've seen this amongst people I know personally.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, sometimes you really just have to step away from the information, away from the people that are causing you issues, and just really sit down with that inner self. Because if we keep, relating with our history or our egotistical history, it's just going to terrorize us. It really is. There needs to be downtime. And there's a lot of people out there that seem to forget there are very simple techniques that you can do for yourself. One of them I'm doing is a sound biorhythmic meditation, which is allowing me to balance both sides of my brain to give me a little bit more clarity when I'm dealing with others or any situation at that. I mean, you have meditation, you have connections even with your family if they're not too destructive, and sad to say mine is, but we really need to grip the fact that singularity might be better than popularity. Groups are important, and actually not even important, they're key to society, but singularity can expand in a lot more than the rules of a group or situations of a pack.
Absolutely, you bring up a good point. What's the point of being, really popular, really rich and famous, if at the end of the day you can't look yourself in the mirror without crying, which apparently is all too common amongst the rich and the famous. They're actually, turn out to be very miserable people at the end of the day, which is, it's sort of like a trade-off. It's an unbalancing. If you externalize your whole world, you're at the whim of that world. You're at the whim of everybody in it. And of course, those people are going to move on and grow, and they're not always going to take up the same place in your world as they did before. So really, it's just the road to destruction. And you see it all too often. And in Hollywood, you have all these stars that they like to build up, and then they just rip them to shreds over the course of a few years, and you never hear from them again. It's really weird. It's like this energetic feast.
Oh,
It seems
yeah.
like. Yeah.
It's people think these Hollywood groupies and these Hollywood stars are so amazing, but they're just tools for a giant corporation. A Hollywood star is only useful for so long before it just gets put back on the belt and is just used like another tool. You can basically give someone enough money, tell them they're a genius, and then you can feed them to the wolves. All they have to do is believe it. I think psychic vampiring can even be manipulated through one person to another, the community that we think we are a part of. But it just keeps turning into a giant cycle of destruction, leading into more sex, leading into more violence. But when you're flipping through the stations and that's all you're getting pumped full of, and even the concept that there are billions of people sharing the same idea, the same sounds, and the same visuals as you, it's almost like they are creating maybe some type of energy from that alone.
Yep, you're absolutely right. I couldn't agree with you more. Maybe we'll never find the spider in the web. And listeners, we're going to be elaborating on all the topics that were brought up on this podcast and more. This is just kind of the rough draft, an introduction for you all to really kind of get a feel for what we're going to be talking about here on our Psyop podcast for you all who are listening.
Get some guests in here that might be able to stimulate your outlook in a different direction. This is Odah and Kloudnine. This is a Psyop podcast, and we thank you for listening. Good night.
Psyop Radio.